Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Fight Chat Friday from TKD Coach Academy. This week we're going to have a look in episode 175 at yet again one more team spar. This is Timothy Boss from Italy against Anis Triqui from Germany, and it's from the most recent World Championships in Tampere in Finland. This one, a little bit unlike some of the ones we've had before, has two guys who are in similar weight categories, so we don't have a very big disparity in the weight or the height or anything like that. And they have very high tempo styles, both of them. So want to see what happens when you have two guys who enjoy sparring at a very high tempo, going head to head in a 2 minute time frame for their teams. Let's have a look.
Yeah, so although the tempo is very high from both guys, these fighters come from a different background in other sports. So point fighting a little bit for Anis, and then we have Timothy, who's recently jumped into the more full contact in Wacko. So it's interesting to see how the tempos differ. Right off the bat, we see a lot of testing, pushing, and pulling, as you'd expect from a point fighter from Anis and Red. And Timothy is trying to gauge the distance with that front leg and try to get in there with that distance. Now, both of these guys very accomplished in our own ITF as well, but this is just an added facet to their game.
Straight away, we're seeing a very, very close distance. For people who are used to watching matches in our ITF, you can see a very close distance. Now, a slight mistake in terms of the stepping from Anderson gets caught as he drops with a side kick from Timmy, but more likely on that one makes the escape, although he concedes the warning. We're seeing that much closer sparring distance where it's a little risky to pick up your leg because both guys can, as you can see, Timmy almost got cut out with it there. Both guys can, as Anis has demonstrated, step through if the kick isn't sharp or if there's time to see it coming up.
Very quick blitz. Yeah, so that was a lightning quick one from Anis, and that got a score for him. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Timothy, a little bit more combinations, building scores, building some exchanges. He's trying to be first into contact and then follow up with that. Anis is trying to get those clear shots on his entries. We haven't seen too many follow-ups or him staying in contact that little bit longer so far. So the speed is trying to be first in and then bail versus trying to build some scores, and that's the difference we're seeing so far in the difference of tempo, but still very, very high pace from both guys, no matter what their intention is.
Yeah, I think Anis would be happier if he was having short exchanges with single contacts that he can get away from without an exchange or trading. Whereas Timothy, I think, would be happy even potentially conceding a score initially if he could create some broken play and open up some combinations that he'd be known for. But we can see that makes it quite not exactly cagey in the way that we'd usually expect, that there's not a lot of action, but very testy.
Yeah, definitely. And we see, as well, the warnings starting to rack up for Anis. So far, they don't make a big difference on the score because there's more than 1 point between all cards. But it is certainly a factor when you have those combinations and that pressure of squeezing to the edges. So it is something to be aware of as well. But he's really, really good at picking moments to get forward and take some space back, especially with that blitz. It's absolutely lightning quick.
Absolutely. We can see Timmy's reaction to the blitz. He's not trying to defend it with the legs. He's using the slip of the head and bringing his punches to the body to defend it. So he's looking to get into that bump or that contact and then go to work from there, where Anis is looking to be very accurate on the first contact so that you can create a little bit of movement and maybe get a follow-up.
Yeah, so we see the last couple of seconds here, the pace has increased even further. Very, very high pace so far, and we see a good pressure and squeezing situation from Timothy where he's gaining that extra warning, looking for that sixth potentially, and that's why he's pushing forward, putting the pressure on his opponent, looking to squeeze that last one, which is going to make a big difference. And that's why he kind of dives in there at the end to get that extra squeeze, to get that sixth warning and hopefully flip it from 2-2. And that was what his intention was, but obviously the score didn't really matter there, and then it results in a 2-2 finish.
Yeah, we see in the last few exchanges there, Anis having a couple of occasions where he's kind of found a distance on that side kick to try that backhand punch over the top, and he's gotten a little bit of purchase with it as well. But it's an interesting challenge as well when you have that right versus left. If you have the same kind of kick coming from Timothy, but off of his right leg, very often Anis is going to be able to get that low covering front hand in contact with the foot on the way up and get a lot of purchase off of the backhand, where because Timmy's coming in with the left, he can close it off sometimes, all right. Anis can close it off and make a little contact, but it's very, very difficult to get the follow through that he'd be looking for, or create the movement out of Timothy that he'd be looking for as he brings in that backhand.
Yeah, I think Anis did very well to get 2 cards there on that one, considering that he had 6 warnings. Now, I know there was a foul for Timothy as well, which cancelled 1, but the fact that he was predominantly using his hands to get his scores, he was very quick getting in on a lot of them, getting that first initial score. But the fact that Timothy was very active on the legs and actually got in one very clear side kick at the start when Anis took the bait for the back kick. So that is very... it's something that you need to be aware of over the 2-2s, I think. That 1 minute, that 1 round in team sparring, you might be able to pull draws a little bit more, but you need to have a very, very high contact rate if you want to be just using those punches. And if you are interested in that and you are more of a puncher, definitely check out last week's episode 174, where we go into details and tactics of what you need to be aware of if you're going to base your game around being more of a puncher.
And from the point of view of tempo, if you want to spar at a very high tempo and drag your opponents up to match you, here's an example where 2 guys are both equally, or maybe not quite equally happy, but working at a very, very high tempo. And you can see the level of concentration that's required right throughout the 2 minutes in order to preserve good decision making and good accuracy of technique during a high tempo match.
There you go. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that one, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Bye for now.